Come to the back of the space in which you were going to be working in, taking your feet hip width apart, starting in a nice strong posture position. So for me, I'm going to throw those hips forward just a little bit, engage my glutes, engage my quads as well. So I'm just going to try and contract them, and I'm going to drive my shoulders down, palms facing towards the front of the room. Just be mindful of that rib cage flailing out, so poking out a little bit, and just tuck that in just slightly, trying to contract those tummy muscles just a little bit. For 3, keep breathing, 2, 1, taking those hands up towards the ceiling, reaching nice and tall. You might want to have your hands sort of shoulder width apart or a little bit wider or together, depending on your mobility here. From here, we want to try and drive those hands back either side of the ears, and we're just going to move from side to side, so sway from side to side. 3, keep breathing. 2, imagine you're between 2 panes of glass, keeping that lower body nice and engaged. 1. From here, we're going to reach a little bit taller and bending those knees, hinging from the hips, bring those hands back into where our chest is, and then just coming into a variation of a good morning. So you're really engaging the back of our legs here. Our hamstrings are nice and tight, under tension. Our glutes are engaged. We've got a nice strong torso position with a nice long spine, chin slightly tucked into the chest. I've got my hands on my thighs or on my shins. Try not to rest on the knees. You don't want to pop that out in any weird positions. So from this position, we're just going to rock back and forth on our toes, creating a little bit of balance. If this is too hard for you this early in the practice, pop your hands on your thighs and just move your torso up just a little bit. For 3, 2, squeeze that pelvic floor if you can. 1. Drawing your torso down towards the floor, bending those knees generously if you need to, chin towards the chest, linking those elbows and slowly rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. So starting from the very bottom of your spine, trying to roll up gradually all the way up to where your neck is. So leaving your neck, your head and your shoulders to very, very last. Keep breathing as you do so. Engage that bottom half of the body so it's nice and fixed. Gripping the mat through your big toe, little toe, and heel. Coming to a nice upright position. Lowering the shoulders, taking a nice breath. Let's do that again. So inhale, take those hands up towards the ceiling. Try and draw those arms back without creating an excessive curve in the spine. So nice, long, tall position here. Bending those knees, bring those hands back into the chest and the torso, hinging down and coming into a nice sort of L position, upside down L position. So what we're looking for here is a nice long spine, chin slightly tucked into the chest, and it doesn't matter really about your legs as long as you're engaging those hamstrings and those calves and you've got a nice balance here. So legs hip width apart. You can work towards lengthening out those legs, but don't push it too much at this stage. And I'm just going to rock from side to side here for 3, 2, 1. Releasing my hands, dropping my chest down towards my thighs, maybe bending those knees if that's what I need to do or feels more comfortable, tucking my chin into my chest, just allowing my head just to move from side to side, relaxing those shoulders, linking my elbows, and again rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae, squeezing my pelvic floor and my glutes as I do so, trying to roll up. It might look different from how it feels. Just try and engage different areas of your spine as you come up, consciously leaving your shoulders, neck and head until very, very last. Allowing those hands to come down the body, shooting those fingertips towards the floor, palms facing towards the front of the room. Last time, but this time we're going to walk our hands out on the floor. So raising those hands up towards the ceiling, bending those knees, hinging into a nice halfway position. Bending those knees a little bit further, placing those hands on the mat and just walking them out in front of me until they're sort of 2/3 up the mat or the space in front of you. Bending those knees and just hovering them off the ground, really trying to engage the core here, actively pushing through your hands, pushing through your toes, trying to keep that position for 3, 2, 1. Lower those knees down towards the mat, push back onto your heels and then come back into a nice all fours position, releasing those toes. So hands shoulder width apart, fingers nicely splayed on the mat, knees hip width apart, tops of the feet actively pressing into the mat. So from here, instead of allowing my shoulder blades to be sort of drawn in together, I'm actively pushing away from the mat through my hands, engaging my shoulders and all of those really big sort of muscle movers around the shoulder area. From here, I'm going to lift my tailbone, lift my head into what's commonly called a cat-cow position. So starting in cow, and as I exhale, I'm going to move myself into cat. Inhale into cow, maybe extending this position a little bit more as I go and I feel comfortable. Exhale, cat. Inhale, raising the head, lifting that tailbone up towards the ceiling, creating a nice extension in the spine. If you want to from here, you can just move your bottom from side to side, only if that's comfortable. If you've got a really tweaky lower back, maybe avoid it for now until you feel a little bit more confident and comfortable. And then slowly rolling back into your cat position, chin towards chest, tailbone tucked in, really rounding the back for 3, 2, 1. Slowly coming back into a nice neutral position. Pushing back onto your heels now, taking your knees mat width apart, allowing your feet to touch behind you, walking those hands out in front of you and allowing your torso to sink towards the mat, feeling a really nice stretch throughout the whole body, trying to draw your bottom down towards your heels in this position. And from here, just rock from side to side, reach one hand in front of the other, move around, maybe move those hips around as well. For 3, 2, 1. Slowly coming up, just slightly, walking those hands in, bringing those knees hip width apart, and transitioning your weight forwards over those hands and a little bit further, really feeling that pressure in the front of the wrists. Dropping back into a variation of child's pose again. Can take those knees wide or you can keep them narrow, walking those hands out a little bit further. And again, in this position, we're just moving from side to side, keeping that length from our fingertips all the way to our torso and the side of our ribs, our lats, for 3, 2, 1. Slowly transitioning our weight forwards now. Alright, so now we're going to try and create a nice long line between our knees, our hips and our shoulders. And try and keep that head in line with the spine for 3, and push away from the mat. 2, 1, dropping all the way back. Again, moving around here, maybe walking those hands out a little bit further at this stage. If you're comfortable, maybe rocking from side to side, taking gaze underneath the armpit, moving that bottom around, trying to draw that bottom a bit closer towards the heels. Lots to think about in this position. It's a great position for working on a good few things. So 3, 2, 1. Walking those hands forwards as much as you can before coming forwards, transitioning your weight forwards and coming into a nice posterior chain activation. So pushing the tops of the feet into the mat, lengthening out those legs, really pushing away from the mat with your hands for 3, 2, 1. Slowly lowering your knees, pushing back into a nice variation of child's pose, taking those hands either side of the body, grabbing your feet, moving from side to side for 3, 2, 1. Walking those hands out in front of you, lengthening those hands out, moving as far forward as you can whilst keeping your bottom close to your heels. You might find if your dorsiflexion or plantar flexion is a bit tight, you might be up a little bit. Don't worry, we'll work on that as we go through this series. So from here, we've got our bottom as close to our heels as possible. We've reached out as far in front of us as we can, and then we're going to walk both hands around the left-hand side of the room. Then walk as far as you can go, feeling a nice pull all the way down the right-hand side of the torso. From here, I'm just going to get you to twist from side to side, taking your gaze maybe under each armpit as you do so. Maybe walking around a little bit further if you can for 3, 2, 1. Walking those hands back with control all the way to the center. Walking those hands out a little bit further and then going for the other side. So around towards the right hand side of the room. Keep that bottom planted as low as you can go. And then when you can't go any further, around towards the right hand side, again start to move. So lift one armpit up, take your gaze under it for 3, 2, 1. Can you walk around a little bit further and then still get that movement pattern for 3, 2, 1. Walking those hands back to center. Really dropping your torso down towards the mat, maybe taking those knees a little bit wider to do so. Placing your hands into prayer and then driving those hands behind your head or as close to as you can. You're going to feel this on the tricep here and also over the top deltoid there. From here, we're just going to gradually pulse our chest down towards the floor. 3, 2, 1. Good. Taking those hands out in front of us, bring those knees hip width apart, and then driving our right hand through our left armpit or underneath our left armpit into thread the needle. You will need to come up from that low position, so bring your bottom up towards the ceiling. You've got a nice long line between your knee and your hips, your femur. Resting your right shoulder and your arm onto the mat, either having your palm facing up towards the ceiling or rotated round. And then walking that left hand around to the top of your head for 3, 2, 1. Dropping that left armpit down. And then opening up again for 3. Keep breathing. 2, 1. Dropping down. Last time. 3. Little bit deeper. 2, 1. Dropping down. Taking your right hand out from underneath that, little bit underneath the arm, and then taking your left hand, other side, thread the needle. So do what you can. So if you had your palm facing down towards the floor on your first side, try and get it on the second side. Otherwise, have that palm facing up towards the ceiling. Walking that right hand around the top of the head, taking your gaze up towards the ceiling if that's comfortable. Otherwise, keeping your head and your neck nice in line with your spine. 3, 2, 1. Dropping your right armpit. Lifting that right arm up again. Walk it round if we can for 3, 2, 1. Dropping that armpit down towards the floor. Last time. For 3, 2, 1. Dropping down. Armpit down towards the floor. Taking the left hand out in front of you. Allowing your bottom to go down towards your heels. Grabbing hold of your heels and just rocking from side to side. Take your hands now out in front or underneath your shoulders, coming back onto all fours, pushing away from the mat here, tucking those toes and pushing that bottom up towards the ceiling into a variation of down dog. Slowly walking your hands back towards where your feet are. Allowing your torso to drop, bending those knees, linking those arms, chin tucked into the chest, engaging the whole lower part of your body, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. Ending up in a really nice postural position, hands shooting down towards the floor, shoulders nice and low, ribs tucked in, hips forwards, engaged glutes for 3, 2, 1.